I'm from Singapore, so when I was returned to Singapore in 2020, we were required to quarantine, and then there were a lot of videos being produced by the people, and I started watching some of them, and I get very interested in them, how they present themselves. So it's about basically vlogging the hotel quarantine review in Singapore during that time. The discussion on space on social media, we usually talk about it as a virtual space. So people are free to affirm their own identity, whatever that is. And then there's another purpose of sharing information. So they post information about certain events. And we also help people to come together because they share similar interests. And some of them become influencer or to attain celebrity status. Okay, so you can actually get promotional benefits, if you have enough followers on YouTube and at different places. But what has been less focused on is the actual place, because virtual, by definition, the space has no physical boundary. So there are two perspectives on place in terms of social media. One is the specific location, okay, where they are actually filming. Okay? And another one is the content. And in tourism, they use this terminology called narrative transportation, where you watch the content, it will take you to the place. And imagine yourself in there, like they are. But my interest is because as I watch all these different vlogs, a lot of times I was wondering whether they are featuring themselves or they are featuring the location, because they're supposed to show the quarantine status of their stay. So this is just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Vlog is basically a video log. Okay, so basically record certain things as an asynchronous mediated monologue. That means you actually pretend to talk to someone, but the people can watch anytime they want. So it's not together. But you can actually engage in a conversation in terms of putting comments and likes and all those things on there. And some of them actually have subscribers. Okay. And then stay at home notice is during the COVID peak, Singapore in Asia actually, just in case you guys are not aware of it, it's its own country. It's a small little red dot in Asia. Okay. Depends which country you come from, you are required to stay from a few days to 2 weeks. Okay, you have to pay. If you come back if you flew out before March 27th, and you come back after that, during the peak of COVID, the government will pay for you. Okay? But you do not know where you stay. You arrive in the hotel, you go through the immigration, you got on the bus, then you tested, you get on the bus and they take you anywhere. So that actually created the whole interest in vlogging, because some people get really nice hotel, like 5-star resort, and some people get tiny hotel, so they actually vlog and complain about the whole day. And then the duration, again, it depends. My personal experience is that when I was going back, I was supposed to stay for 2 weeks. The 2 days before I leave in America, to Singapore, they changed it to 3 weeks. Okay. So I have to decide whether I want to go back or not. I went back, okay, and paid extra money. Okay. So I collected the box in 2000 summer when I was there, okay, and I used all these keywords to search for it. Okay. So only there are a lot of foreigners too. So only languages that we can understand, which include or have subtitled, we will accept it. The rest, if it's all in Japanese and things like that, then we will have to discard it because you won't know what they're saying. Then we analyze it as we are looking at it, and after 120 cases, we kind of cannot find more new information. It's got a saturation point. But then I continue to collect 5 more just to make sure that it's really more new information. So, and I also went to we went to each of the bloggers' public page to look at information, how many years they've been blogging, how many blogs they have, all the stuff. Okay. So you can see some of the profiles. Okay. It's actually, you look at the range, it's kind of wide, right? Some of them have new blogger, and some of them have 82,000. Okay. So the range, that's why I choose the median instead of the mean. And in the year, some of them started at 1 year, and some of them has been doing that for 16 years, and some of them have, again, the first blog versus 3,000 blog. So you can see the whole range of experience of people doing it. And then the general content, most of them, they either start from their home of their own country, or they start from the airport. Okay. But most of the time, the focus is always in the hotel. Okay. Part of it is to show people, where they're staying, and either to complain or to say how happy they are to have given the 5-star hotel. So usually what happens is that they always do a home room tour. They'll go around with their cell phone and then show up a window because that's the only thing you can look out. Okay? They give you a hotel key, but once you get in or once you get out, okay, you cannot go in again. So the only time you can leave the hotel room is to go for your testing, and then they'll give you a new key to come in, just to make sure that, and they'll call you, they say, okay, room 215, your turn to go down. Okay, then after that, the person finished, then another room will go down. So in the elevator, there's only one person, always, or the family, in the same room. Okay. And another very common scene is the food. Okay. My assistant was saying that because we have nothing better to do, so they keep taking the picture of their food. Another one is the daily activities in the room. It's very interesting. Some of them even show how they brush their teeth. Okay, so for 2 minutes, you're watching the person brushing their teeth, okay, and eating the food. So it ranges from a whole variety. And then some people were doing exercises or doing computer work. Okay, this is an example of the food. Okay, some of them put them together. And what's interesting too, because you cannot really leave the room, they have fixed time to deliver the food, and you see the top picture, there's a chair covered with plastic. They will just, the time comes, they put the food there, they bring it to the doorbell. Okay? So you actually don't really see the person delivering the food. The only time that you see the person, there's also one video the person recorded someone delivering the food is when the person actually waited, okay, for someone to walk past. Okay? Part of it is to show, all these videos is to show how isolated, okay, the place is. And we talk about, because the whole idea of the box is to show, their experience of the place. So one of the main themes is the space of isolation, and this is actually during the time almost nobody. And then they show airports, and this is the road on the way, actually nobody, or the hotel where there's again empty hotel. Airports actually is very tricky. You're not supposed to take pictures at the checkpoint and things like that, but you can see people with the cell phone snapping picture, of places or even testing. Another one is the indication of the space in terms of the confinement and isolation. Okay, you see the hallway, every room has a chair, right, where they can put the food, and then you put your trash outside. Okay? And then this is just an example of a generic room. Okay. So in terms of the space, what is interesting also, they were divide the space into, just imagine one hotel room. It will divide the space as sleep, food, and then whatever empty space they have is the exercise when they walk around. So you can see a lot of people doing aerobics, and stuff in the room for a long time. So this is, again, my interest about how much time they show their face versus they show the place. And you can see that the mean time is about 53%, is it? Of the time that they are actually showing the face online. And it ranges from 13 to actually, sometimes the whole video has no body. Okay? Whereas the other times it's all about the person. Okay? So they show you the room just a little bit behind them, and then it's about them again. So the whole issue is, why do people do that? And I matched that against the number of years, and I find that the longer the person has been vlogging, the less time they will show their face, which is kind of interesting. It's almost like a learned behavior that people are not interested in just seeing you. But then what is interesting that people who actually have a longer time, more than 12 years, they begin to show their face more. So basically, it's not a linear line. So what's the main thing? One is that the narrative transportation actually to confirm that it is an empty space during the time. Okay, the places are not empty. Okay. And also to share the place in terms of the confinement and the isolation, that it's just the room or the view of the room. Okay. And part of it is also to reflect the constraint of the room. You can see the person basically talking about this is what I do. Okay. So there's kind of a joke that some of them will make, say, I'm going on a tour, so they go from the bathroom or the bed to the bathroom, and that's leaving, kind of a different space. Okay, so they go, oh, now we're going to new place, so you can see the bathroom. You can see some people taking bath. I mean, they cover, but they can see the egg in the thing. But what is another thing is also the how they utilize the space. Okay, in terms of the video, there are some videos to actually teach you what is the best angle, to take your face and all this technical stuff. Okay. But a lot of them are not professional, so you actually can see video moving. When I was recording this FaceTime, my main challenge is that because I actually watch them stop and count the time. It's very, I don't know what, irritating. Recording because no this. So it's like stop, just record the amount of time they show their face. And another issue is that if you are interested in that vlogs as information about how to deal with the experience, there are so many of them and so much differences among them that it's kind of overflowing of information. So is it really information sharing, or is it you just trying to present yourself? And you need to wonder, as audience, how many of us actually want to watch someone doing their daylight? It's almost a reality show. Yeah. Especially when they're eating, they sometimes just show their mouth chewing, okay, but for 2 minutes. They're just waiting. Okay. But then again, there is an audience, because there are people who actually do that. So one of the two issues is that are we actually, how do people, the audience, filter out the information? Do we try to watch it, right, for 3 seconds and realize that it's not it? Okay. But then what happens is interesting is that once you watch it for a short time, it's recorded as being watched. Right? So you kind of increase their kind of viewership. Okay? So you kind of create kind of artificial statistics. And then the other thing is accuracy. Okay? What actually is represent an accurate portrayal of quarantine room during that time, or is it just basically personal sharing? Okay. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Munchi. It's quite interesting. I have a couple of questions and I'll ask later. And now we can go to telefonlarınızı lütfen sessiz alabilir misiniz? Now we have Ayşe Chandra from Akademi University. She will be talking about the class, lifestyle, and learning in digital age, a comparative study on the formation of secondary school children's digital capital, the case of Chile, right? And she will be looking into the
Health University, and actually I'm a sociologist, particularly interested in childhood studies and youth studies. This is my actual title of doctoral thesis. In the scope of my doctoral dissertation, I have a field, it's an ongoing study, and I have been conducting a comparative study between private and state secondary school institution in Çekmeköy. This is my outline of the presentation. Firstly, I will talk about the general framework and the scope and the aim of the study and the research problem of my dissertation and what kind of methodology I conducted during my research, and finally I will share my primary research findings. Up until now I conducted semi-structured interview, and I have conducted a survey implementation at 4 educational institutions. Let me briefly talk about the general overview and the framework of my dissertation. Developments in media and communication technologies are not invented in isolation. They are launched and produced into an ecosystem consisting of all the technologies. With this respect, embracing these new technologies depends on people's past experiences. So these experiences enable people to understand, comprehend, and use new technologies. The process of learning, understanding, comprehending each new technology differs depending on the user's digital readiness. I call in parallel to existing literature. In this respect, digital capital is a predetermined set of disposition that influences the level of digital readiness and how people engage with digital technologies. Just as in other forms of capital in Bourdieusian sociology, cultural, economic, social, and political, digital capital also activates individuals and enables them to achieve specific goals, or conversely, it leads to individuals' digital capital level, and it also will emergence of reproduction in existing inequalities. This duality, producing resources, prospective resources, or reproducing inequality, is also valid for children's online experiences and interaction with their technologies as a social actors. Yeah, children are major social actors in my research, because as social actors, children are affected by social changes. They take their share of cultural, economic, and political transformation. In parallel, as an active social actors, they also contribute to adult culture while building their own culture, both in online and physical world. So, in the offline physical world, childhood experience in itself differs from region to region. Even it changed from culturally on the level of digital capital children have, access to digital technologies, the use of these technologies, and the consequences of online experiences. Because the digital capital and their digital competences or the access to digital technologies are not depending on their early years of life. It also changed and affect their social relationships, their way of finding a job, or even their finding their prospective partner, something like that. So, digital capital is a kind of lifespan notion rather than limits their online experiences only their school years. So, in order to understand whether this digital capital activates potential resources or reproducing inequalities, I try to compare the formation of digital capital by comparing two different types of schools in Çekmeköy. In this study, I tried to develop a child-centered research design and methodology and comparatively examine the opportunities provided by digital capital and inequalities caused by secondary school students. In this respect, I designed firstly, for the pilot study, I designed a semi-structured interview and then implemented a survey questionnaire. But as you know, the items of the scale and the questions are prepared from an adult view. So, for the pilot study, we discussed with children, is there anything I need to add on my scale, on items on the scale, because I prepared something like the digital capital index, borrowing from Massimo Ragnetta's conceptualization of digital capital. Yeah, let me change. Yes. Digital capitals, the theoretical roots of digital capital stems from Bourdieu's sociology of capital, the notion of capital. But discussions in the literature, existing literature, focusing on depending on diversifying forms of digital inequality have begun to ossify around the digital divide concept. Although the idea of digital divide is relatively novel phenomenon, scientific investigation on digital divide have formed its corpus gained from this Bourdieu sociology and combining forms of capital with digital capital in that and digital capital literature. So, yes, to come to my core research, why I chose Çekmeköy as a research site. After housing crisis in 2021, I had to move Çekmeköy. So, socio-demographic characteristics of Çekmeköy and the distribution of private and public education institutions have a decisive role in determination of research site. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier, I have lived Çekmeköy for about 3 years, and it enables me to observe and understand social fabric of the district and rapid urban transformation both academically as an insider. Çekmeköy is a district in the Asian suburbs of Istanbul. It was a sub-district municipality of Ümraniye before gaining district status in 2009. I missed the research problem. Sorry for this. The main research problem, by the way, how do socioeconomic and socio-demographic differences and the characteristics of the specific district have a role in the formation of digital capital formation. Sorry for these missing slides. I didn't nervous. It's my first presentation for my thesis. Yeah. Why Çekmeköy come to mind this slide? Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, this hybrid social fabric enabled me to compare the private and state secondary school institutions because, as I observed, the distribution of the educational institutions are not randomly distributed, and they formed, for example, in near the high level of gated communities. They formed, constructed private schools, and opposite of this institution there is an state schools. But parents are able to send their students with their social peers rather than different different social cultural backgrounds. So it's like a caricature, but the class is divided into something a whole, something a street, divided into two different worlds. Believe me. Yes, this is the map of Çekmeköy. Until now, I try to describe the place in Istanbul and the social fabric of the district. How many minutes I have? 8 minutes. Yes, okay. With this scope, firstly, by the way, it's the rising population of the Çekmeköy after gaining status as a district in 2009, yes. Primary findings and let me briefly talk about again, research methods. Up until now, I have a chance to conduct 200 survey with 200 students and approximately 50 semi-structured interview with children. I think explaining digital democratization or through the educational turn and the major literacy, we can diminish, so-called diminish digital inequalities, but in a real sense, somehow, online world, there's a space for, how shall I say, class encountering, because they share some specific life taste preferences. For example, as I analyze the primary findings from semi-structured interviews, 2015 a TV series, Kiraz Mevsimi, İstanbul'u Gelin something very famous TV series on mainstream media, and they addressing the maturity because they are yes, I aware of a decade ago what happens and what they publish in a broadcasting on TV series. But when I talk about the class and taste, there is that clear crystallized differences. For example, they depending on their cultural capital that they generationally distribute from generation to generation. For example, one of the students from a private institution said that I have a Pinterest account, and why? Because she learned the Pinterest and the atmosphere of this application from her mother, who is an electric engineer in Çekmeköy, very professional background. And when I searched Pinterest, she said, I became aware of who is Kate Herring in the notion and information about activists from a secondary school student is totally different. It totally depends on the level of digital capital and digital readiness. Yes, we all have smartphones, we all have computers, but information about our digital readiness, that's why I had to say as a readiness, the level of digital readiness is completely related with this digital capital. But the users and how engage with digital capital and explore the potential resources and advantages totally related with the class plus the level of cultural capital they borrow from their generation. Sorry for the time limits. Maybe for the quick Q&A, we can continue the details about the research methods and the findings. Thank you so much. And sorry for my
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. But now I want to introduce you my old colleague, Assistant Professor Ala Farmijan from Beykoz University. He will be his presentation titled A Matter of Presence, Storytelling Suggested for Virtual Reality Film. And he is going to argue the new narrative form in virtual reality films. And his study will be based on 3 acclaimed films: Dear Angelica, Dinner Party, After Party. You have 20 minutes.
Yeah, again. You almost killed me. So it's this one. Sometimes it takes sometimes it's you know, I started I take this blackboard for every lesson.
I'm an assistant professor in Istanbul University. So the title of my work is A Matter of Presence, Storytelling Suggestions for Virtual Reality Film. The development and proliferation of virtual reality technology in recent years has enabled the emergence of virtual reality film and new narrative form, as you know. However, VR films does not have a distinctive language yet. While presence is the essence of VR, it is possible to come across certain traditional film grammar that eliminates presence in some of the VR films. This research aims to contribute to the development of VR film language by offering storytelling suggestions following its nature over 3 acclaimed VR films: Dear Angelica, Dinner Party, children, for example, when they are playing a game, they immerse into the reality of the game. So that's immersion. VR is a medium that can both create physical and mental immersion. And mental immersion, or in other words, presence, is the essence of VR. I'd like to give some storytelling suggestions for virtual reality film over the topics of screenplay, mise-en-scène, cinematography, editing, and sound. For the VR film screenplay, of course, it has a story and a discourse. So the story, the events in the story can be active, passive, or both. For example, the character may do something, or something may happen to the character, or both can happen. Characters, there can be an independent character. The viewer can be as herself, or in the place of the character. Setting, like in theater, single or minimum number of settings should be preferred for VR. And the discourse or the telling of the story, we should talk about the temporality. Real-time storytelling should be preferred for temporality in order to keep the presence. And focalization, we can be an objective observer, a subjective participant, or the viewer can substitute the character. And of course, the suspense and identification are the two basic elements of a screenplay that attract interest and encourage participation. While shock is an effective and appropriate tool that is commonly used in VR films, its effect is momentum. On the other hand, suspense can be sustained throughout the entire narrative. And the mise-en-scène, of course, this is crucial because mise-en-scène elements can guide the eye to the center of interest in VR. And all the parts of mise-en-scène actually have the same function as traditional film, actually, with the VR, but there are differences, of course. For example, for the setting and props, preferably a single setting to preserve the sense of presence, and alternatively, a 360-degree changing background or moving camera can be used. The costume and makeup have the same function as the traditional film. The lighting is also, but should be designed in 360 degrees for VR. And staging, like in theater, movement and performance determine the pace. The space can be used in 360 degrees different than the theater, of course. And when we look at the VR cinematography, first of all, we have a subjective point of view. The viewer can be an observer, a participant, or substitute a character, as I mentioned in the screenplay. So 360-degree image we have in VR film, so that means it is important to take or keep the attention of the viewer. That is the crucial part. We don't have a frame. So that brings us to use mise-en-scène style, which means long shot, long take, and a deep focus cinematography. And mise-en-scène elements can guide the eye to the center of the interest, the elements as I mentioned before. And the camera can either be static or moving. Even the camera stays still. The viewer can turn her head towards anywhere she likes. So that is an equivalent of the camera movement. But also you can move the camera itself, so you can use it for plan sequences. And of course, the VR film editing. Of course, in order to preserve the presence, we should use a continuous image. That means a long take the latest technology of sound mix is nowadays it's called as spatial audio, and that is a very important tool for creating the physical immersion in VR. There should be also continuous and asynchronous sound in order to create the illusion of the ambient, and the sound effects can be used to guide the viewer's attention. This is a qualitative research and case study that is used, and 3 acclaimed VR films, Dear Angelica, Dinner Party, and Out of the Body, are selected as case studies. And we will be analyzing them over the topics of screenplay, mise-en-scène, cinematography, editing, and sound again. Before we start the analysis, I would like to show you some excerpts from the film. So let me just open it. Can you close the lights?
Silently. Higher. Go higher. Go. Come, my little friends. I know exactly where the treasure is. Under the floor, through the gulch, and into the gold. But then the credits roll, and the world disappears.
You need to let this go. It wasn't real.
Fine, you're friends. It's safe. I need to hear it. We both do.
Daddy.
Static and moving camera is used. The moving camera keeps the eye at the center of interest and supports identification by simulating the floating field of the UFO abduction experience. Invisible editing is employed between the scenes via transitional effects of dissolve, fade to white, and fade to black. There are two visible cuts in the last scene. The sound bridges link the scenes. The spatial audio mix increases the visibility of the images and the viewer's presence, of course. And finally, the out of body is about a scientist who investigates the phenomenon of life after death. He uses himself as a test subject for his lethal experiment. However, things do not go as he planned. The story is almost entirely told in real time from the subjective viewpoint of the main character. There are two ellipses. The opening scene is told from an objective third-person perspective. The story is entirely based on suspense, surprise, and shock is also at work in this film. Static and moving camera is used. The moving camera guides the eye to the center of interest and supports identification by simulating the hovering field of the scientist's ghost. Invisible editing is employed between the scenes via transitional effects of dissolve, fade to white, and fade to black. There are 4 visible cuts in the last scenes. The continuous, otherworldly, horror ambient sounds and music increase presence. The monologues of the betrayed main character support the viewer's identification. The findings show that the main factor affecting the sense of presence is the screenplay. Not all the stories are suitable for VR film. Suspense and identification are the basic elements of a screenplay that attract interest and encourage participation. Other factors on presence are spatial and continuous audio, subjective point of view, 360-degree, deep focus, and continuous image. Moving camera and or transformations of visual elements may substitute for editing. For the conclusion, while the film lectures viewer may ignore the minimal use of editing, it can be asserted that using in-scene elements and or visuals rather than editing would be a truer method for the film story. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We had 3 interesting presentations on virtual space as a community building and the formation of a secondary school children's digital capitalism and virtual reality films and the role of storytelling in the virtual reality films. Now I would like to thank you so much. They were very interesting presentations. I really enjoyed them. And I'm asking the audience any questions to our panelists. Okay, please.
Thank you very much. For the first paper, I was just a very simple question. I wondered whether there are, on any of the videos, there are any criticisms of government policy, and if not, why not? And then for the second paper, well done on your first presentation, it's great. I was very interested in your research, and I wondered whether you've come across the work of Laguna and Downey on who are using Bourdieu as a framework to look at cultural capital and digital capital, and whether your findings, so it's an opportunity for you to elaborate on the findings where you concur with their finding that digital capital adds to advantage that already exists.
Yeah. Do you have a question?
No, sorry, that was my
Do you
limit.
want to go ahead?
Sure. There weren't any criticism of the policy. I mean, as the government. I mean, there are criticism of procedure. That means, you have a bad experience, it is inefficient, they would complain about that, but not as a required policy. But I think part of it is Singapore is very strict in law. So if you might sue you.
Yeah.
So I think it's more reason. But then there are a couple actually did complain about the procedure, especially the unknown hotel.
So there was no kind of secret or undercurrent narrative that was trying to do something, make some critical commentary.
Well, not from the
No.
100, but there are others. There's a bit more stricter, but it's not under the quarantine law.
Yeah.
It's somehow connected to the Confucian philosophy, according to which the good of the collectivity goes beyond the good for the single person. So you might sacrifice some personal freedoms.
Yeah, but part of it, I think, because I'm living in the US, I think it's also the contrast between the two. Because I keep thinking about election. Okay? In Singapore, they tell you how good they are, so you choose the best. In America, they tell you how bad the other person is, so you choose the least worst. So it's kind of the different philosophy about presentation of self.
Let me try to answer the question. Yeah, you mentioned about how concur digital capital activates the potential resources, right?
No, so it's about how digital capital acts as their argument is it acts as a kind of bridging capital between other types of capital, which then builds on advantage. So in other words, it doubles up on advantage. So, winner takes all.
As far as I try to transcribe my semi-structured interviews, I shall say that there's something a space to how shall I say close the distinction between the level of digital readiness. How shall I say? Naturally, addressing the nature of the class-based differences, they create a new manner, new digital capital and digital competences or access to the new digital technologies in order to, how shall I say, converge the distinction. So, it is difficult to say digital capital totally potential resources for secondary school youth because as an interesting interview I conduct with a schoolgirl she's approximately 20 years old. She's a very fan of TV series, the Turkish TV channel Toskoparan, very famous child-centric TV series on state channel. So then she follows the official Instagram page, and then she find an official page for child active agency and fill the form for application for becoming a player and on this TV series. Then she doesn't have a particular device to take a professional photo because she said that when I try to take a photo of mine to upload the form page, there is an error. You cannot upload with this quality, something like that. As I say, when the democratizes through these devices, because it's not a technological issue, I try to addressing this problem. The power over even all the people, but particularly children and their school differences, they create another. For example, they create and prepare educational kits and aid kits, like the literacy kits for the professional, they became aware of all these, they mean that, private schools, private institutions who attend private school, secondary school institutions, they say that they're aware of all these Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and also they are particularly learn how to use Canva or something like that. Even LinkedIn and preparing a professional CV in the early years. And how shall I say? Schools and educational institutions are not compensate the class differences in general. Thank you so much for your question.
Can I add something? You said you did this participatory, you were participatory observer. And also you said you had interview with 200 students from each school or 100 from one school?
Totally.
Okay, what were the kind of, where did you do this interview? And then what's
I also
because these are kind of, how long did it take? You know, these are quite important factors, I think, no? Can you elaborate? Please?
I mean, there's an interesting findings from the new venue of the research because firstly I try to observe the physical dynamics of each schools.
How did you do that?
From the principals and vice principals, I asked to observe, to conduct research on, for example, computer laboratory or their library, because it's available to conduct interview in a safe and private space, because semi-structured interview are one by one. So, as I observed, state schools are founded a library from a very rich persons are organized and they raise funds for the construction of library at a school in itself. So, but some private institutions have fancy courses like exploring their talent course, for example. They in their talent courses, they from ceramics to fashion, something like that. But they have no library in a library, for example.
Did it have an impact on your space?
Yes. Because I also hypothesized that how the physical dynamics and the atmosphere and the climate of the school affect the cultural capital and the digital competencies.
Thank you. Any more questions for our wonderful panelists?
I have a question to build on.
No.
To build on your question from her. One of your questions you asked is should there be a new form of capital? It's digital capital. And I mean, to me, those type of capital and the way you describe, the skill level, it sounds more like human capital that's conditioned on culture and economic capital. So, is your type of capital, digital capital, a subset of human capital meaning skill, or is it on the same level as what you define as the kind of broader concept of capital?
Existing literature, Ragneta and the other followers, this literature, assume that we need a bridge capital. That's why it's a kind of a bridge capital between economic and cultural, and also social capital. It's like an intersection, but also it's a specific dependent form of capital. For example, I need to specify the indicators because if I have a chance to come back my presentation, I divided the digital capital notion into two levels. The first level is digital competencies, and the second level is digital access. These competencies are information skills, social skills, safety skills,
Why did they show just some particular aspects of the face of people instead of the entire face?
You mean the face themselves?
Yeah, like just people chewing their food or.
That's actually very, yeah, I also want.
Why?
Part of it, for some of the videos, I think it's kind of a mix because I think they don't want to show their face, but then, they will show up, whether they like it or not. So they end up just showing their mouth through some of them. And what I find very interesting is that when they do the room tour, and some of them will stop in front of the bathroom with a big mirror, you can clearly see who you are, or it's up in the view of a window and it's a reflection. So, I mean, specifically, I don't know why, because I didn't interview them, but I think from my reading of it, part of it, some of them actually do not want to show their face.
Then they show themselves.
Then they show themselves in kind of indirect, in passing. That's,
Okay, can I just ask you something?
Sure.
So I was going to ask the same question, but anyway, I'll ask my alternative question. You said location determined the identity, or do you think, I think you mentioned something like that, choosing the location, and they chose particular locations, yes? Do you think that made any effect on their identity, choosing the location, or the identity?
The location is because of the nature of the name of the vault, right? They're all about mostly about the hotel. So the question is, if you want to link to identity, is whether they are actually trying to really share information, or they are just trying to kill time, and there's another aspect of doing the vault, okay? Or they are trying to just as another way of adding another vault into their collection.
I think there is something in South Korea, and they eat a lot of food.
Yeah.
What is it called?
Mukbang.
Yes. And you talked about food, and maybe is this Far Eastern culture?
I think part of it is because part of it is to show that the limited things you can do.
Yes.
Okay? So what you consider mundane, like you just walk in your room and pick up a book, becomes something to show. Because there's nothing else to do, within that 2 or 3 weeks in that room.
But I think some of these chewing videos on YouTube, they have like 10 million views. Anyway, more questions from young students? Come on. Did you enjoy the presentation? Yes. And this is a good opportunity to ask. Don't be shy.
Everything was crystal clear.
Okay. I really enjoyed it, I must say, myself. 3 different topics, but they're also quite, related with each other. And if there is no questions, I think I would like to thank all the participants.
Yes, thank you.
And I want to thank